Hi, this is Stephanie Hansen, and you're listening to the Makers in Minnesota podcast, where we talk to cool people doing cool things. And we are live today with two folks, a married couple. I love talking to married couples. We are talking to Andy and Sarah, and they are from Latitude Studios. And you guys have a really funny, not like haha funny, but wow, cool funny pandemic story of how you started your business during a time when, for a lot of people, the pandemic was really challenging and horrible, and you guys started a business out of it. So who wants to start and tell me the story?
Yeah, thank you. And good morning. Yeah, we were living the pandemic as a family with a similar story to a lot of our neighbors and friends that were going through it. And I was a civil engineer I was in the office for 15 years, essentially forced to go work from home in March. At the same time, our kids were, being sent home from school. And so we were at home. Sarah's here with me. She was a teacher. Is a teacher, and she was also sent home. So all of a sudden, now that somewhat seems normal to all of us as we're sitting here on the backside of the pandemic. But at the time it was like, whoa, how are we going to do this? And we were all looking for our space in the house and our quietness, and the kids were not used to, they're in different grades and they weren't used to being together. So they're bothering each other, playing on the Zoom calls, and I'm trying to have meetings all day long, and Sarah's trying to have meetings. And so we were, a lot of people have lived this and we're living it at the time. And so it came about as I found space and quietness. It started out in my garage. Actually, I have a finished garage, and I bought a desk and just set up my office out in the garage. And as all good family fathers do. I was not hating it. I was hanging out in my garage now, and it was quiet, and I was having calls. And so that was around that March, April timeline. Then we got out into late May, June, and then it started to heat up in the garage, and I had to look for a new space and went back in the house and put up with some of that for a while. And then I looked out and I'm like, oh, I have this camper trailer sitting there that'd be perfect. It's 6 by 12. And I'm like, hey, I just go put my desk in there, buy an air conditioner to keep it nice and cool. And I went out there and it was perfect. I, had my own space and quiet.
Compared to being inside the house, Stephanie, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he wasn't having to deal with the kids homeschooling. And
Yep.
I mean, teaching online is no joke.
Right. I could put do not disturb signs all day long on my do not come in here unless you're bleeding, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
8. They're 8 and 10.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
also, I don't know why I'm always fixated on food, but my sister has kids that are a little bit older, but just the meals, it was like, it's lunch. What's for lunch?
Yes. I have to feed them. Right. 2:00. I'd be like, wow, did they eat? I'm not sure.
I think we forgot lunch again.
I didn't hear anything,
And then 4:00 is like fourth meal.
Right. Yeah. As long as we had snacks, we could survive. Everyone needed snacks all day long.
Snacks.
Still the case, but.
Yeah. But I was living, I was spending my time out there. It was great. We had our pandemic puppy, again, like half of our neighborhood, that added puppies during this. And so our new puppy could hang out there with me during calls and all of that. And it was just really nice. It open it up in the morning, let the, fresh air, the birds are chirping right there because you're sitting right outside. It was just really nice to heat up in the middle of the day, turn the air on. And then in the evening, again, open it up. So the kids are outside kind of playing in the street with the neighbor kids and all that. But I was still working till 6:00, but it was still kind of like I was there. I was a part of it, but I had my own space. So I
became quite jealous of him.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so then what made you transition from the idyllic trailer to
with the window, a tiny
container?
window? Yeah.
Yeah. I've always been intrigued by business owners and business ownership, entrepreneurial. It was always been, I guess, a goal of mine. I think with the pandemic caused me to reflect a lot on, I could continue to do what I was doing. It was successful. It would be a good run and I'd be happy with that too. But I think just in reflecting, I have, turning 40 this summer. And it was just like, hey, I think I need to do this. I've always wanted to go through life and never have actually taken the leap of something I always wanted to do. You just put it all together, and I decided, that it's what I wanted to do. And so, I think in there, it was a combination of I saw the change in the market. I think people working from home, all of the video meetings and all of that, I knew it would change the world in how meetings are held and how much people travel and all of that, just because they could see how it could actually work. And so I think there was I saw the market changing, and permanently there would be changes that would carry through. I think, again, it comes down to just personal goals and kind of reflecting at the, point in my career. And then we just saw how this worked. And
with having the small little box, if you will, in the driveway, that's, and yet how could we make it cooler, better? What materials would we want to use to build something?
So why a shipping container versus just building like a box?
Yeah. Good question. I think, quite honestly, we looked at, what is a way that we could do this without, like a huge factory, and without really when you get into the wood products and rafters and all of that type of stuff, it just gets to be, you need a lot of space. I was evaluating, quite honestly, I always kind of figured that like the shed options, it was pretty easy move to just go, and for them to start finishing out the inside is pretty quick. And I figured that would be a move. So we started evaluating different structures and how we could accomplish this. Do we accomplish it with the trailers, with the aluminum trailer bed, kind of going down the path? Do we partner with a trailer company, or what are different ways we could do this? And, I knew in civil engineering, I had heard about the containers becoming housing options and how cool of a structure they are. That's about all I knew at the time. And so it was just like an idea out there. And then I started digging into it. Like, what if we did a container? It seems like a perfect size and durable structure. And so I started looking into the shipping container. And then I was like really impressed by a container, how they're built, their Core-10 steel, their special steel, the structural, they can carry 50,000 pounds in a 20-foot. I mean, they're incredible little structures. And so, I can keep going into the container piece of it, but that's really what it came down to from a business and a business model, that running a business plan. I'm like, okay, we could actually start cutting these and working with them without needing such a huge workforce in a warehouse.
Well, and as it turns out, isn't like the cost of wood has increased like 300% or something crazy. So smart.
Exactly. That's definitely playing into our court right now.
Yeah.
And the, even with labor and timing, the residential contracting world is very busy right now. They're having troubles with supplies and wood. And so, and we're hearing that from our customers.
I think,
and there's the abundance of containers too.
So it's almost like a sustainable way to help the environment, because unless you've been to a shipping yard or a port, you don't realize how many of these containers there are, and they're just laying all over the place. So one thing about a shipping container, you guys have made it look really professional. It's really well designed. And I liked that you have a website that people could really customize their shipping container. Can you talk to me about how you decided to come up with the variables for the design? So like you can have a roof, you can have an overhang, so that it's more of an open space, because, obviously COVID, you're thinking like working from home. But I think artist studios and just people that need space away, like both my husband and I work in the house and have forever, and just having like a small space or a gardening area, like somewhere that's not together all the time, is excellent.
Yeah. And, we did start out with the goal of coming up with a office, the backyard office, but we had just heard, we brought up the idea to so many people, and they came back with their ideas of what they would do with a shipping container, and what was surprising to me is how many people had already thought of a container as a structure, as an outdoor structure to use it, whether it would be for a backyard bar, poolside, boathouse, all the different uses that people came back with. Just as you're saying, even as that heated and conditioned space, that it could be a craft room, a yoga room. I mean, whatever you need that space for, and to have your own space to get away to, we just started hearing that from people, and we're like, well, that build for us is the same. I mean, it whether
Yep.
And the customizable part, I think, is just it's so hard we were trying to come up with three base models, and say, here, pick A, B, or C, and have these 4 options. But for these to sit in people's yards, it becomes kind of, almost the identity. If it's for your office, you can create an identity, create your own unique space. You may not want a window facing a certain direction. You may have a nice, whether you're on a lake or woods or somewhere where you want to have a nice view. So we just felt it was so hard to come into it and say, just pick these 3 models. And then when we look at our build, we're not a huge factory type set. I mean, we're custom making these, and realize that the cost and the time to build it custom is actually very similar to if we were making several of these at one time.
Right. I'm talking with Andy and Sarah Berg from Latitude Studios. And so the base model of one of these is 20 grand. How did you come up with this idea of 20 grand? And is that just like based on materials and labor? And how does that compare if you were going to build like a 10 by 10 studio out of wood?
Yeah, good question. And that was, I kind of looked at just the materials and the labor, and coming up with what my cost would be. And then, taking a look at like kind of an overhead and profit for a company, looking where does that number go? And then I went out and I looked to see if that's a viable option for people from a cost standpoint. I looked into, well, what is the alternative that people have? So you could finish out a portion of your basement. You could finish out a room, a spare bedroom in your home.
Right.
You could actually add on to your house. And, I looked at the pricing for that. And then also I checked against the wood option, the shed option, to gauge where I'm at. And I'm like, oh no, I can be really competitive with that option. And so I think, and we do have this sustainable product. It's unique. I don't intend to be for everybody. Some people are just not going to be interested in it, and that's okay. But I think there is a good audience that is interested in the container, and that it's unique, and the structure and all of it that's cool about it. So kind of backing into the price there, looking at what it cost me, materials, labor, everything, overhead, and then looking at what people's options are.
What has demand been like since you started? Like, are you already selling them? And
Yeah. So we are taking orders. We always knew kind of there was several months of figuring out how to build with shipping containers, because it is unique, and coming up with a way that, we are comfortable with, from waterproofing and structural and all of that. Coming up with that process did take several months. And then we got to the point of, okay, now we're comfortable with the materials, comfortable working with them. We know the time and cost, because I didn't want to just start selling them and not knowing exactly how long it would take. And so all that took time. So now we're at a point in the last couple months here where we do have people, like I can give a final cost up front, talk about what changes we can make and what works and what doesn't work. And so we're taking orders now, and we're starting on the builds to deliver this summer.
There was a nice article about you in the Star Tribune. Did that give you a little boost?
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
That was great. I think advertising so we're new in the business world, just to be honest. So we're figuring all this out, and we were advertising. We started out primarily on social media, Instagram. And so we were getting inquiries kind of from all over the country. And, and we were responding to them, and we were working with people, because you can put these on a semi and send them across the country.
Sure.
But the Star Tribune article really hit the Twin Cities market in Minnesota, and really has been really good for us in a number of ways. It's we have local customers that we can go out and, look in their backyard where it's going to go and take pictures, and just, it's been great.
Yeah. I think that piece it really made us feel like, wow, we're actually doing this, and people are responding, because we still sit there and kind of go, what did we do?
It's funny to laugh about that, but I often thought that, like, I had this company that employed like 36 people, and we were responsible for like people's livelihoods and their kids. And I would just wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and think, this is so weird that anyone would entrust me to do anything.
Right. And yet it's awesome, but it's weird, it's scary, it's all the things. And I think us being married and having our own jobs for 15, 20 years out of college, then you switch to this, okay, we're still married, but we're integrating like careers in a way.
Yep.
And so when we got really busy from the Star Tribune, especially, I think that was a good test of kind of how are we going to flow with this together too, just speaking from that side of things. And that has definitely had hiccups at times, but that has been fun just to kind of, he's the technical, he's the engineer. I've got a little bit more of the creative side. This is really fueling me creatively. And so also I'm very much like an extrovert. And when people come in and families come in, it's just been so fun to meet them and meet their idea, hear about their ideas and then try to customize with what they want. And they're blown away by it. Wow, that was a shipping container and you took that and made it this and it can do this for us. They need space. Mom needs space to work.
Yeah. Do you anticipate that with the coronavirus kind of wrapping up here, that will change your level of demand or just maybe alter it or shift the kind of demand?
Yeah, I think, and that's what we saw kind of coming into the spring here with the pandemic, starting to wind down. And we opened up the market by adding, we have our fun tiki tainer, which is just a fun outdoor bar. Because again, it came down to people are inquiring about, well, can you do screen rooms or that backyard bar? And it's like, well, yeah, we certainly can. And these are great structures for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm very deliberate in making a floor model tiki tainer that markets that. And so, our backyard office sales is somewhere in the 25 to 50% of, and all of the other things now is filling up that bucket. So the other thing that I've kind of noticed here and just feeling it out as I hear from larger businesses and what kind of guidance they're giving employees for long-term is, I still think that going to a hybrid model where people maybe go into the office 2 days a week, work from home for the rest of the week. I still believe that for a number of businesses that will be a direction that they'll head and it works great. But I think, with our office sales, I still kind of see that there may be a higher demand in a while when companies make that formal determination. I think there's some uncertainty yet. There's only been a few companies that I've heard of that have said, nope, you can work remotely indefinitely and have, said that is what their business plan is going to be. I think it's still uncertain for a lot of people. And so I just foresee that hybrid model being popular as well as working remotely for certain businesses will make sense. And when those final determinations by companies are made, I see a demand for the offices kind of coming back stronger even.
One thing too that I think happened with COVID, and I'm kind of a workaholic person, so I'm sort of working all the time. Not having a definitive space where you go and you leave, I think has been a problem for a lot of people that aren't used to this type of working. So they're always feeling like they're working and it's creating higher levels of burnout, higher levels of stress. There isn't a place to like close the door and leave your things behind. And for a lot of folks, having a separate dedicated space does that.
That's where our wheels just started turning in general. Just like Andy said, he loved being in this little box.
Yeah.
It was a camper / trailer / fish house. I mean, it was, and I would walk out there and just be like, wow, and yet also I appreciated that he had a separate space. I didn't want him right in the house either.
Yeah. Well, and that I'm a person that I have papers sitting around on my desk back. It's always been that way. I try to pass the point of telling myself I'm going to have a clean desk. I just know I'm not. But I need my space, my working space, and that I can come to. I know where everything is. It may kind of look like a mess to people, but it's my space. And being able to, at the end of the day, create that separation to just shut your computer, to turn off the lights and leave that space, and you come back to it the next morning, provided that office experience without the commute in between.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
How can people find you or see pictures of more of the types of spaces that you're working on?
Yeah, so we have on our website, latitude-studios.com, and we're working on getting more pictures up to there of some of the more recent builds here. And then Instagram, I'll let Sarah, that's more Sarah's realm.
That's kind of our visual blog, if you will, Stephanie. I feel like it tells the background a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes and who we are and our family. And we try to incorporate humor and random things like our Shih Tzu and things like that.
Yeah.
Which Andy just loves that.
The Instagram more fun than just like
but exactly, and that's more up to date too, like Andy said, with what we're working on. And so that one's just on Instagram at Latitude Studios Co. is our handle on that.
Yeah, and what was cool about Instagram that I really liked, I was never real active in Instagram, so I've been learning about that and local businesses and being able to reach out. But on our website, we have on the bottom of it is like a live feed from Instagram. So it keeps our website really active as well. So when people visit our website and you see that what's going on down there on Instagram, then you can just click on it and it brings you over to Instagram. So the
website fresh. I do that with mine too, because I knew I wasn't going to be updating my web content a lot. I wanted my stuff to feed there. So if you went there, it was a snapshot of all the recent stuff.
Yeah, we like that feature. We were like, oh, that's cool.
Pretty cool. It's super fun to talk to you guys. I was really excited that you reached out to me, and then I read the article in the Star Tribune. I just think it's a really cool idea. I am a person who loves separate space. I love the idea of having a she shed or a backyard space, whatever it is. And I hope people do it because I think it brings so much joy to your life to have this space that you don't necessarily realize it sometimes until you have it.
Yeah, we're so thankful that you spoke with us today and we could kind of share our story, and we're just getting going, but it's really been picking up, and people are the creative ones too. They come to us with these ideas for what they need, and we're like, yeah, we want to build you that,
Absolutely.
So that's been one of the most rewarding parts is meeting with the families or the people that and just kind of hearing their story, and it's like, oh yeah, I think this would work really well for you.
We get excited,
but getting to know them. It's been a really fun experience. So.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you spending time with me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.